All right. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Planet One Radio. Greg Angello here with you on a beautiful, it's a Friday afternoon now, and I brought in a really good guest, first time on a video podcast that I've done. Chris Bushnell is with us. Chris, nice to have you here, man. What's going on, brother?
Thanks for having me, Greg. It's an honor, man. I hope we drop some gems today and give some real value to the listeners.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, I told the folks that I told the folks that we did one about 2, 3 years ago. You and I, we did one,
Oh yeah, yeah, I
and
remember that.
yeah, we'll send them the link to that one. We talked about all kinds of stuff. I think that's when the interest rates were starting to crank up, and we really weren't sure about what was going to happen and everything else. So, but as I said this morning and also yesterday morning, that I wanted to talk a little bit about, or actually more so about referral business in our business than just, the state of real estate. Now, if you want to talk a little bit about that, we can. But what I'd like to do before we get rolling here is just a little flashback about you and where you at now. Because I don't know which brokerage or which mortgage firm you're with right now. So why don't we go that way?
Sure. So I am a mortgage broker with Empire Financial. I run the Charlotte branch here, and I help hundreds of families every single year get into homes. My biggest thing for families is just education and communication, making sure they have all the information that they need to make educated decisions, and then just communicate throughout the process and just make sure everything goes smooth and stress free for them. And they always know what's going on, and they're never sort of left in the dark when they're buying a home, which can create unneeded stress.
Yeah, people have a lot of questions.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
People have a lot of questions. It's like, and then it's really important as you have to actually just sort of like set the tone and make them feel comfortable, right? Because you are, in some respect, you're in a sales position. You're in a service, but also a sales position. So there's probably some key things that they want to hear from you. Like, what's your track record, Chris? And like, how long have you been doing this? And why should we trust you?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I don't get too much of that, right? My business, I know, you're going to see me all over social media. I do post a lot on social media, but 99% of my clients are referred to me by someone who I've helped in the past. I
Okay.
get referrals from people all over the country, clients of mine, business partners of mine. I get them from I help a lot of people and they tell their friends and their family. And that's how my business has grown.
Yeah, which sort of is going to move us into our next transition, which is about referrals, right? Because I know when I got started about 11 years ago in real estate, obviously when you first get started, you got to start building your business. You got to lay down a lot of seeds, right? Plant a lot of seeds, get all that stuff going on. But then after about a year, I started having mostly referrals, right? People who know you, people who trust you. And so, how many years are you in the business now?
5 years.
Okay, I can tell by that smile on your face. You're all excited every day
Oh
waking.
yeah. Still on the honeymoon. It's been, it's been a little crazy honeymoon, but we're still here. Still loving it.
All right. And so, for those that are listening now, we'll have all your contact information up there, so people can reach out to you and find out
Great.
about. But since I think even right before we got started, uh, what is the pulse really of real estate right now in mortgages? I mean, what in the world is going on out there? Is it a ghost town out there, or what?
I wouldn't say it's a ghost town. I think it's a market that we haven't seen in a long time. It's a market where home buyers have more leverage than they've had in probably the last decade. We're especially in Charlotte because it's a very popular area for people to buy homes in. You've seen things shift over the last few months from what's traditionally always a seller's market to a pretty heavy buyer's market, where home buyers can now buy homes for less than the asking price. Home buyers can confidently get their closing costs paid for, or a lot of their closing costs paid for by the home sellers. And also there's just more inventory and more homes for home buyers to buy right now than we
Okay.
haven't seen in probably a decade.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I have other realtors on my social media and all of that. Some are working strictly for buyer broker firms, right? And some are saying there's nothing out there. It's scarcity. There's not enough properties out there. But um, I guess it's really about who you talk to, or I guess really about what your mindset is. I mean, if there's something that you want, it's fair to say that you can probably try to go after it. Correct? If you want it bad.
Yeah, absolutely. That really is all mindset, right? I mean, the same person who says, "Oh, there's not enough houses," they're in the same market as the person who says there's plenty of houses. That's all just in their head, regardless of, and I can tell you the reason why the market is like this is because of affordability. We've seen home prices go up and we've seen mortgage rates elevated for a long time now. And just at this point, it's difficult for people to afford the payments on their mortgage, and so less people are buying homes. And if there's less people buying homes, that makes it harder to sell a home. But there are still people buying homes, right? And it doesn't matter what rates are, there's always going to be life events for people where buying a home makes sense, right? People get married, people get divorced, right? People have children and they need more space. People, unfortunately, they pass away, right? And they had a house and now they have to maybe sell that house. People move to a new city like Charlotte and now they're growing in their career and they're making more money than they've ever had and they want to start investing in their future. And so they invest in real estate because of the almost guaranteed appreciation. Historically, always appreciates. So there's life events that are always going to make people buy homes, regardless of home prices or mortgage rates or any of that stuff.
Right. 100%. Yeah. And it's really, even in any type of sales, right? When you ask someone, it's like, do you need something or do you want something? Right. So the need obviously takes precedent over the want. But again, it really depends on their circumstance. Because if somebody came to you and said, Chris, we need a house like today, you know, versus, well, if you find us the right rate, you find us the right mortgage plan, you find us the right realtor, the right location, then we'll consider it. Right. So those are all different emotional standards that people are going to, bring about. And obviously that's going to trigger how fast or how slow they want to go.
Yeah, and it's not my job to convince someone to buy a house, and I will never do that. It is my job to make sure that when they do want to buy a house, that they think about me.
100%. All right. That's all good stuff. So, you had been posting some stuff on social media now, and for those of you who want to check him out, you can. Chris Bushnell will have his stuff, but he is on Facebook. He's also on Instagram. Instagram is really a big driving force for a lot of his business. Correct?
Yes.
All right. And so now that you said earlier that most of your business is coming through referrals, right? And so what do you tell people who are just getting in the business right now and they have like really no idea how to network? Like, who do I talk to, just my family and friends, or like, what do I do? I mean, what would you say to someone who's just coming in right now and they want to build a business and they need to network and they need to get referrals?
Sure. I think that a mistake that they could make is trying to sell people. I mentioned you can never convince someone to buy a house, right? Just it's a losing battle. But you can make sure that when they do buy a house, they think about you. So starting with the people who you know and making sure that they know you're a real estate agent or you're a loan officer. I can tell you there's people who are I'm connected with on social media who I haven't spoken to in years. They know what I do because I post about it all the time. So just making sure that people know what you do, and then B is asking people, do especially people who have bought a home in the past, hey, who is your realtor, right? Who is your loan officer? Do you still talk to your loan officer? Things like that, and just starting to figure out who they're working with now and see if there's any opportunities for you to get into. there's also intentionally networking,
Mm,
right? And knowing that there are certain industries that are more likely to refer clients to you. And typically, as a loan officer and also a real estate agent, I'm not a real estate agent. For any real estate agents listening to this, I think of people who are in wealth management, right? People who, I mean, remember I was talking about those life events, people that know when people are, getting these huge promotions or having families. Think financial advisors, think will and estate attorneys, think accountants, CPAs, insurance agents, right? Those people know what's going on, and those people also talk to a lot of people who will go through those life events that will make them want to buy a home. And
so
if you
that's
establish yourself with a great reputation of educating people and taking care of people, and
mhm.
everyone knows you're good at what you do, they will just naturally refer people to you because they know that if they refer you, that is going to help their reputation because of the connection that they built.
Right. Well, it's a big pool. It's a big player pool. I'm sure you would agree, right? You could probably go into a room of 100 people and 50 of them could be loan officers or 50 of them could be real estate agents, and they're all vying for the same business, right?
Mhm.
um, so what else do you think that would be important as to why they would either give you a referral or refer someone to you? Now obviously you just closed the deal with them, but um, there was a statistic that said about 12 to 15% of clients will go back to their original, either their loan officer or their realtor. That's a really low percentage. So what?
Yeah,
So how do you put yourself into the pool of so many, and then still able to pull out referrals specifically just for yourself?
sure. So in terms of how I stay in touch with my clients, when someone buys a home with me, I stay in touch with them basically forever until they tell me to stop, and that's never happened. And I do that in a few ways. Is we do an annual mortgage review an annual mortgage efficiency review, or sometimes I call it an annual financial review, where we're basically just reviewing what they have, look for opportunities to save them money, look for opportunities to help them get, save on insurance, lower their mortgage payment, pay less interest, looking for ways that we can optimize what they're already paying, looking at their home equity and doing a home equity report for them to let them know how much equity they have, talking through their goals and their needs to see if there's something else that I can help them with. Another thing that I do on those annual mortgage review calls is I ask them about things that go beyond what I do,
Mm-hmm.
right? I know about taxes enough to be dangerous, but I'm not a tax professional, right? I know about insurance enough, but I'm not a financial advisor. But I ask them, like, hey, who is your financial advisor right now? Do you have a financial advisor? Most people say no, but let's say they say yes, right? If they say yes, I like to connect with financial advisors, right? Because I like to connect really good financial advisors with my clients. So if I ask someone, who their financial advisor is, they give me a name. I'll ask them, okay, 1 to 10, how happy are you with them? They give me a 9 or a 10. I'm going to say, hey, I like to refer financial advisors to my clients. Can you connect me and your financial advisor in an email? Right. And then I start working with the financial advisor and I'm referring clients to them, and they inherently start referring clients to me back. Right. And I do that with financial advisors, CPAs, will and estate attorneys, and homeowners insurance as well. And these are all at a benefit to my client. Right. These are all things that are going to help families build long term wealth. Having a good financial advisor, having an estate attorney, right? You never know what could happen. You want to make sure your family is protected, right? Having life insurance, right? Making sure that you're not overpaying on homeowners insurance. All things that are a value that I'm giving my clients. And then also, anytime that they are working with the people who I referred them to, they think about me, right? Because I'm the person who made that connection.
Right. And so what about other people, like say painters, moving
Sure.
companies, things like that, that we have to work through in our business anyway,
Yeah.
right?
My
Um,
clients know that I I got a guy for almost everything, right? So I've referred out electricians, plumbers, tree companies that cut trees down, property management companies, painters. I've referred them all.
What about artificial turf people?
I don't think I've done that one yet.
Now you got one, but now you
All
got one.
right, let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Now you got one. So
All right,
we'll talk a little bit more about that too, coming down after the fourth. But so that's going to be another
nice.
avenue. And so that's why, for those that are listening right now, you really have to understand that the way that I look at it, and I'm sure that Chris, you'll agree with me, is that we have to work through one another to be able to grow our businesses, right? I mean, it's difficult to be sitting on a private island by yourself, waving a giant flag and saying, I'm down here. Somebody help, somebody get me. I'm here to help you. I think JD Rockefeller said that I'd rather have 100 people sell $1 of a product than me trying to sell one person $1,000. Okay. So there's strength in numbers, right? And so that's why you have to be relatable, and you have to be, I think the other key word, Chris, is you have to be intentional with people, right? Because I think there was something else you posted last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, something um, about other people in your business, and how you guys work together. Are you working really in friendship with one another, or are you
Sure.
working in opposites with one another to try to hurt one another?
Yeah, I think that's very common in the real estate industry where realtors look at other realtors as competition, and loan officers do the same thing with other loan officers. And I could see if we were in a small market where there wasn't too much to go around, but there's a lot of people who move to Charlotte. There's a lot of people who want to buy and sell homes. There's a lot of people who aren't paying cash for that home, so they need a home loan to do it. And if we shift our focus from this this I don't want to say the I'm going to come up with a better word here. But if we shift our focus to an abundance mindset and not a scarcity mindset, we're going to do more, right? The people who you look at as competition, you can easily look at as people who you can collaborate with, grow with, understand what's working well for them, understanding what challenges that they're facing so that maybe you can help them, maybe they can understand your challenges so they can help you. We can all learn from each other, but that starts with the mindset of
Right.
knowing that the only competition you have is the person you were yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, you could say whatever you want. I mean, I'll use the word selfishness. I don't know if that was what you were thinking or not, but people, we unfortunately we are is our nature. We are people of, we are selfish in our own nature. We're always looking out for what's more important to me than it is what is going on with you and what's going on with Chris in your life, right? So, and I've touted this book many many times, which is The Go Giver. I don't know if you read that book from
Probably 4 or 5 times, probably.
yeah. So,
Great book.
really it's all about giving to get, really. But it's really in the way that you do it, because I'm sure that you would agree. Same thing with me. I mean, my phone is dinging all the time about, hey, why don't you come and join my program? And I've got this program and I've got that program. And I don't really know who these people are, but obviously they're trying to make money. They're trying to sell something. There's nothing really wrong with that. But, um, you know, it's about relationship building, right? Because as you said, I mean, I think, I don't know what the actual number is right now in Charlotte Metro. I think probably about 3, 4 years ago, the, uh, the number of licensed agents were about 17 to 18,000 just in Charlotte Metro, right? I don't know what the mortgage number is. Maybe you do. Maybe you look at those stats or not. But um, so it's like relationships in your family. You may have cousins, you may have relatives that you never talk to. Now, there may be a benefit going on with them, but you don't have any idea what that benefit may be unless you do something about it, which is about acting and using your voice box, and to make an effort to do something about it, right? Just like what I just said right now. Like, you don't have anybody that that's in the artificial turf business. And it's a huge space right now. I mean, you probably know what people are spending to try to get their lawns looking nice. And it's happening all the time. And, you could be talking to someone and they're going, yeah, man, we like the house and the realtor told us that the lawn sucks. What should we do about it? You're like,
Sure.
maybe you should talk to Greg because he knows he's in that space and you can talk to him. Um, and that's how it goes. But I think the other thing that's important too is about you talked about the mindset of abundance, but it's really to me, it's about giving of yourself to know that you're doing something for someone else doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get it back in return, right?
Sure.
I mean, if you don't, is there's no crime in that, correct?
Yeah, never keep score. It's not like hey, I refer you a client, you refer me someone. No, it's do what's best for the client. If you meet someone and they have a need, it's a really good idea to have an established network so that you can help your clients beyond just what you do. My clients think about me all the time, even though most people buy a house every 7 years, right? They don't want a mortgage from me, which is what I do, but they know that if they need something regarding their house or their finances, I know a guy.
Right. And so what else do you do on a regular basis, like on a monthly basis? Are you sending out like either cards, reminder cards to people? Like what are you doing to try to stay in front of your clients so that they don't forget about you and go somewhere else?
Sure. So, I mentioned I do my annual mortgage reviews. I do a monthly Charlotte real estate report that I get really good feedback on, and that's basically just what's happening in the national real estate market, the Charlotte real estate market, and then the mortgage industry. A lot of people get that, and I get it. It's got like a 50% open rate. So, I mean, and people compliment me on it all the time. I send that monthly. I do client appreciation events. These are more just fun things to show people that I appreciate them and trusting me with with a huge life milestone. And that's really it for clients, right? And, a lot of my focus is also on my referral partners and how I can help referral partners, whether they're real estate agents or financial advisors or anyone else. Um, I do events every single month. So I do events specifically for real estate agents. And then right now I'm doing two events per month for clients and then really anybody else who want, even people who I don't know. And these are more just fun events to make friends, build, business connections, things like that.
So is it fair to say that you're not really big into like, paying for leads for lead generations? Are you using AI in that process to try to bring people to you, or are you just basically always in a forward motion going after it?
Yeah, I don't buy leads at all. I think it's a very different business model than what I do. Everyone who comes to me, there's already a level of trust because I've helped someone who they trust.
Right, and it takes time to build that level, correct?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a lot of hard work. And it's building something from the ground up, right? I mean, I've been doing this for, a few years now, and certainly I'm doing a lot more, I'm helping a lot more families now than I was, 3, 4 years ago.
So, what is a typical day like for Chris Bushnell? What's a typical day like? Give us
Sure.
give us give us the inside of what's going on in your life, man.
Yeah, yeah. So a typical day, I'm a pretty structured guy, right? So I mean, my days are usually pretty structured. I'm also a single guy, right? So I don't have a family that I'm reporting to and all that right now at least. So I wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, Monday through Sunday, hit the gym, get a good workout in. I got you know a morning ritual, which prayer. Definitely, I'm heavy on getting my prayer in the morning, reading my Bible. Um, Having a good breakfast and coffee, just getting ready for the day. I'm typically on my computer by about 7:30. I'll spend maybe about 90 minutes making content, whether that's writing Facebook posts or Instagram reels or writing my newsletters. I do a weekly newsletter for real estate agents, and I do a monthly newsletter for basically everybody else. And then that'll take me to about 9 o'clock. I've got a pre-work ritual where I'm basically just planning my day. Just not planning my day out because I planned it the day before, but basically just reviewing my day, checking the email, responding to messages, and then typically by 10 o'clock, I do a phone block, typically from 10 to at least 10 to 12, if not 10 to 2 every day. Every day's got a theme to it, right? So on Mondays, I'm calling specific people. On Tuesdays, I'm calling specific people, and so on. And then that'll take me to about 2 o'clock. And then, I'll have a small break for sure. And after the 2 o'clock, I try to spend as much time on marketing work as I can. But then also I have to, meetings, so I certainly have a lot of meetings throughout every single day. So I'll kind of sprinkle those in. I try to be done with work by about 5:30, and then afterward, I typically have something going on after 5:30, whether it's an event or something like that.
I mean, so do you consider yourself like a one man show, or do you have other people working with you?
I've got one loan partner right now who sort of helps me with more like paperwork and admin work right now.
Okay. Now, the other thing you said during this is you said that you plan the day before.
Hmm.
Why is planning important? Like, why can't you just get up in the morning, Chris, and just try to figure it out?
It's the difference between playing offense and playing defense, right? You score points on offense. So every single Sunday, I do a Sunday night ritual where I plan out the entire next week. And then also at the end of every day, I have a post work ritual, which is where I'm reviewing the day and planning the next day.
And
And it just, I always know, I always come in knowing exactly what I do. I don't have to think about, hey, what am I going to do today? I know what tasks I need to complete, who do I need to call, what are we going to talk about, and what's going to make today a win for me.
okay, so you really don't have any like junkets in your life, so to speak, right? That or disruptors, distractions to some degree. I'm sure you deal with some things that would throw you off, right? I mean, what's the saying? All work and no play makes Chris a dull boy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right.
I,
So you
uh,
got to
I,
get out there and at least, blow off some steam. I mean,
yeah.
nothing can't be like on a perfect heartbeat for you in your life, man. Don't come on here and tell me that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoy my evenings and my weekends for sure. I'm not really much of a partier or anything like that, but I do spend quality time with the people I care about.
So there was a book that was written, the little red book of selling. Did you read that book?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I'll send you the info on that one. So it's very good. So it basically talked a little bit about what you said about there are certain things that you just may have to stop doing to get yourself to where it is that you want to go. So let's just say that in your situation you're single, but let's just say that you have a different lifestyle. Maybe you like to go out 4 or 5 nights a week. Maybe you like to be out till like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. You don't have a structured or disciplined background or something. That could really cause havoc in people's lives, right? Because when you put yourself out into a circumstance like that, I mean, anything could happen, right? You're not really planning for something bad to bad to happen when you go out, but um, people need to understand that to try to get to where you need to go, you need a straight and narrow path to get there. And putting a bunch of junk inside, rocks and debris and stones and clutter, may cause you to stumble and fall off, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that it'd be very difficult to be a successful entrepreneur at all if you're staying out until 2 o'clock partying, on the weekdays. And it is what it is. You got to take care of your mind. You got to take care of your body. Stuff comes up. And, a lot of times the best entrepreneurs are problem solvers. When problems happen, you've got to be sharp and you've got to be able to solve that problem quickly.
Now, during the course of all these years you've been doing this business, I mean, are there certain people that you really struggle with to try to either it's not so much, I don't want to use the word try to make them happy, but try to uh, get them to listen to you, right, with your sound advice um, and what it is that you want them to do. How do you overcome people who just to you are can be just difficult?
Sure. I think there's always going to be difficult people, and hopefully you get to a point in your career where you can decide who you work with and who you don't. And if you need to fire a client because they're difficult or rude, I don't accept rudeness, to me or my team. So I'm very open to telling someone I'm not going to work with you. That's clients and that's referral partners as well. I do try to be try to communicate with people the way they like to be communicated with. I'm very big into disc profiling people and just doing my best to sort of figure out what their preferred communication style is and modifying my communication style to match what I think they'll best resonate with.
Um, and that's good. That is good. I mean, you obviously got to make a decision for your own well-being and for your own business and whether or not the effort that you are going to invest in someone is going to be worth it, right?
Yeah,
Whether or not, as I think I posted this on Facebook, that, you know, helping someone who is willing to help themselves walk versus carrying someone who isn't.
for
and,
sure.
and we're not just talking about in the physical realm, we're also talking about in the mental, emotional realm as well, right? Because I'm sure you'll have people that'll continue to keep coming back to you and say, "Well, Chris, this still isn't working, and I've given you everything I've given you, and you still want more stuff from me, and blah blah blah." Because I have gone through a number of different sales processes before, even in the car business, right? Um, but here's one thing that I learned that I didn't learn right away. I basically learned it through an experience from someone else who was in retail. Someone gave me this story, and they were working for a very 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 large retailer, and this individual was just berating the person at the desk, at the counter, whatever, right? Just going off. It could have been either they weren't going to be able to take something back on time, or whatever it was. They were taking it all out on this individual that was, just basically just getting paid just to do their job.
Yeah,
Now the manager was watching from afar, and then actually came in to try to, not to maybe sort of diffuse the situation, but just came up to that person and said, hey, can I ask you a question? It seems like you got a lot going on in your life right now. Why don't you tell me what's going on? I mean, something could have happened from when you left the home, from getting in the car, or coming here now, but what's causing all of this with you? And so this person basically told me that sometimes you can diffuse that or basically break down the layers when you do have someone that could be irate, or someone is just going to be, not someone that, but maybe just to try to peel back some more layers and to get them know them more. And then maybe they just feel like, you know what? No one has ever even asked me that question before. No one has even taken an interest in me at all. And you're really the only one today to even ask me a question about how I'm feeling. I mean, I really
yeah,
think that is a good prospect to work with people who are difficult to work with. Find out why.
sure. And I think it's important, anyone who works in the real estate industry to always remember that buying a house or selling a house, it's very stressful. And every single client that you have is stressed out, and you need to have a lot of empathy about that.
100%. Right. I mean, they could just call you and tell you right out of the blue that they're freaking out, and they can't see the vision that you have, right? Or the experience behind it, because obviously, we should say, especially to for sale by owners, like, how many homes have you closed in the last year? Right. It's like, well,
Sure.
and unless they're investors, right? It's like this is
Yeah.
they're only one. and yet they tell you what it is that they know, which is fine, you know. So you have to, I think, um, you have to listen. You really have to listen to what people have to say and have the integrity and the empathy for them to let them know that you do understand. Because I've always like send out, I would always send out cards, even to someone who wouldn't list with me. If I had a a genuine conversation with them on the phone that was meaningful to some regard, and they still decided to go with someone else, whether or not I found out later, whenever that was. But I would still send them a card and let them know that I thank them for their time and their effort. I don't think a lot of people do that.
Sure. Yeah, there's, classic saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right. So, what other types of great pieces of information? Let's just say that someone wants to get into the mortgage business right now. Someone that either they want to make a transition from another work environment, or they're out of college, or they really think that this is something that they want to do. Like, what advice would you give them?
Um, I would, I would advise them and just let them know straight up, the mortgage industry is not for everyone. You got to have some thick skin, and you have to be able to handle a lot of pressure and stress to do it. It's a very fulfilling job. You make a huge impact on people's lives. You have a lot of freedom and flexibility to grow your business the way you want to do it. The income potential is, I mean, you can make more than doctors, right? So there's a lot of positives to it, but there's also a lot of sleepless nights to it, and you need to be able to handle stress very well. You likely will not make any money for at least 6 months to a year, probably just like with real estate. There are different ways to get into the mortgage industry. Personally, I started at a call center working for a big bank, and that was a blessing for me because I learned how to do mortgages by doing that. I may not have earned the amount of money that I earn now, but I was able to learn the fundamentals. So if someone were to want to get into the mortgage industry, I would say, hey, consider starting at a call center or consider starting off as a loan officer assistant, where instead of just jumping into the sales type role, you're basically an assistant for a high producer where you can learn from them. The thing about being a loan officer, especially if you're I'm 100% self-generated, right? We mentioned I don't do leads. I'm also 100% commissioned, right? So if I don't help people get houses, I'm not getting paid anything. So it's why you need to know what you're doing first. It's also one of those things to where there's a lot of rules and guidelines that you as a loan officer need to know. And if you mess up, you will not only cost someone their house, their deposits that they made on that house, and then also whoever introduced you to that person will never talk to you again. So
Mm.
there's zero tolerance. You cannot make mistakes. And so you really need to slow it down and either start as a call center or an assistant so you can learn the actual rules and guidelines so that you don't make mistakes when your business is your reputation.
So, have you seen within the last, say, 24 months or 36 months a retraction of people getting into the business and leaving the business and going into something else that they just, they
Oh yeah.
don't have enough fortitude or even the financial whereabout to continue to move forward?
It's like 60 to 70% have left the industry in the last 3 years.
Okay. And
Yeah,
so,
there's not many of us left.
so
Which
what
which
do you
does
think?
make it a good opportunity for people to get in because there's less competition.
Right. So the swimming pool is, there's less people in the water now. Right.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah.
um, that being what it is. So what do you see? Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. You did post something on Facebook yesterday, the day before, about you know where the Fed is. Are they gonna make a change? Are they not? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Um, or should we just put our hands up in the air and just crawl under the bed? What should we do, man?
I think there's a lot of unpredictability, with everything going on in the economy with the tariffs and wars and all these things that sort of we don't have answers to yet. I don't expect rates to come down this year at all. I think we'll start to see rates come down next summer, summer of 2026. And the reason why is because Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, the guy that's sort of leading all of this, his term ends in May of 2026. And the most likely candidate to replace him, a guy named Christopher Waller, has already said we needed to cut rates a long time ago. So he's very likely going to be replaced by someone who wants to cut rates. But that is, it's June right now, so that's still almost 12 months from today.
And do you agree with the fact that we should be cutting rates now?
Yeah. Yeah. I think affordability is a huge problem. It's on both the buying and the selling side. I think that people sh I do think it's become more of a luxury to be able to own a home, but I think that I don't think it should be a luxury. I think everyone should have an opportunity to own a home, and right now that's just not the case. I mean, you could have a 850 credit score and just not be able to afford it. And for a lot of people, you can't. There's a general rule of thumb that you don't want your housing payment to be more than 30% of your income. Almost no one who's buying a house right now fits that rule. It's nearly always more than 30% of their income. And I don't think that should be the case.
Well, I think just what you said is pretty eye opening. The fact that buying a home is a luxury. I mean, what the heck happened to, American apple pie and, baseball and, and having your own home. Do you think that that is a foregone conclusion now? Because home prices are always on the rise, probably higher than they historically have ever been, and incomes have not risen in relationship to that. I mean,
There were surveys done where, they surveyed Gen Z and it was close to 90% of Gen Z thought that they'll never own a home. I don't expect real estate prices to go down, especially in a city like Charlotte. I just can't see that happen. But I do think mortgage rates can and should come down to create opportunities for people to become homeowners.
well, and I understand that, but for me, I really believe that that's the issue. The interest rates are going to fluctuate through many different cycles, 5 year cycles, 10 year cycles. Even if we've talked about this before, Chris, back in the 90s, home, interest rates were higher, but yet home prices were hovering around 115, 180, whatever they were, say 150 average, 150,000. So, so let's just say like in a year from now. So let's just say your premise, given the fact that Jerome Powell is not going to reduce interest rates. He's going to be he's going to stand on his ground, whatever reason, and play this game. Um, and then when he leaves office, then interest rates will have this huge change. But home prices will probably be up another 7 to 8% next year. And so now, if you're looking at, I think and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, but I would say the last I heard, probably about 415 is an average home price, which is not a starter home. I don't even know if they exist anymore. So let's just say that they're 475. I mean, even if interest rates come down to 5%, is that a win for anybody?
I don't think they're going to go up in the next year by that much. Historically, real estate appreciates about 4% per year. They're definitely appreciating currently at a lower rate because no one's buying houses, right? So, supply and demand, if the demand's not there, they're going to go up in value at a slower rate. I could see home prices be up maybe 2% by next year. But once they do start cutting rates, I mean, once we start to see conventional rates in the fives at all, like 5.8, 5.9, if it starts with a five, there's going to be a huge surplus of demand. And then we're going to see home prices come down or go up, I'm sorry. So, if I'm a listener and I'm, thinking about buying a house, I would try to get it in the low 6% range because once it goes into the fives, it's going to be a ton of competition. And that's when the prices are going to, we'll see how much they go up, but it could be that 8-10% that you mentioned.
Okay. Now, I have heard different numbers. I heard that home prices, and now I don't know if maybe that's a national statistic. It could be a national statistic, and I've always heard that 4 to 5%, 4 to 6% nationally. But when you're in a high demand market, I heard it was over about 11% increase in home prices. And even um, I mean, I've seen people have had at least 30 to 40% increase in their own
Sure.
values, right? They bought a home for 250. Now they're selling it for 415, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
Hmm.
because if the demand is there and there's no inventory, then people are going to pay to get in because if they need to buy, they're going to buy. And that causes a change in that, you know, that 4 to 5% of whatever it is. So I haven't seen anyone say that the valuations are less than they were a year or two ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it, right? Your friends whose homes have went up by 20-30%, that's because they bought their home in 2021, probably, right? That is when rates were low and everybody and their mom wanted to buy a house. It's supply and demand. Because demand was extremely high back then, home values went up. But over the last few years, as demand has steadily decreased, the the speed of appreciation has decreased.
Okay.
But that can easily turn around once mortgage rates come down, because once mortgage rates come down, affordability is going to be less of a challenge, and then more people will want to buy homes. Demand will go up. When demand goes up, appreciation appreciates faster.
Right. Right. That was always the concern, even last year. If interest rates go down, then all these investors that are sitting on these properties that are renting them out, whatever they're doing, they're going to just flood the market and jack up their prices.
Sure.
Which is I don't know. For me though, I mean, I understand. Uh, I look at it from. I think there needs to be some sort of um, not so much a there needs to be some sort of stabilizers in place, almost like the stock market to a certain degree. I mean, I understand about capitalism in making a profit, but when you're starting to gouge the market because of um, circumstances of our economy, right? Um, and maybe some sort of controls that are put in place. Like, what do you
Yeah.
think? You think that's a bad thing?
Are you referencing mortgage rates or home prices?
Um, Well, mortgage rates are different because the Fed doesn't regulate home prices. They just the paper. But I think that some states, and that's just my view. I think that they should put some of these investors who come in and we're buying, lock, stock, and barrel of everything. And
Yeah.
there should be a moratorium on how much they could purchase and
Yeah.
and how
Agreed.
much they could raise their prices because I'm hearing right now that um, because we're getting into the third term right now in July, but rent prices going into 2026 are going to be insane.
Hmm.
And if the only reason you're raising your prices is because you can,
Yeah,
right?
basically.
That's the problem, right? It's not fair to the consumer because you come into my store and I say, you go, hey man, I want that hatchet over there. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I bet you do, Chris. So does everybody else. How much you want to pay for it, right? To me, it's just, and when you're dealing about people's livelihoods, and like you said, buying a home is a luxury. I mean, that needs to be sinking into people's head
Yeah.
and where this is going to go. I mean, it's a very, very unique environment that we're in, notwithstanding the tariffs. I think that has to do with the more existential issues of our economy with dealing with um, supplies and all of those things, lumber
Sure.
and everything else. But greed obviously is a motivating factor.
Agreed. Yeah. I think that there definitely should be regulations with real estate investors and how much residential property they can own.
Right. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page, brother.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we got a few minutes left. Anything else going on out there that the people out there should know about you, and they want to get a hold of you and connect with you, and anything else?
Yeah, I mean, just look me up on Facebook, just my personal page. I post pretty often on there. If you want home buying tips, check me out on Instagram or TikTok. That's Chris Bushnell Homes on both of them. If you're a real estate agent, come to my one of my events. I do them every first Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. They're always very educational. And then if you're trying to make some friends, you can check out my group Charlotte Connects. We do monthly networking, two monthly networking events. Just a great opportunity to meet people, have a good time, and grow your network.
And so your Monday events, what is that about? What does that look like?
So um, every month I have a real estate masterclass. So it's a class specifically for real estate agents, and we always cover a topic under the umbrella of sales, marketing, finances, team building, and systems and operations. And we'll have breakfast together. So I buy everybody breakfast, and I'll either bring in a guest speaker or I'll lead the class myself on whatever the topic is. And we'll have a discussion for 45 minutes, and then it's also a good opportunity for real estate agents to meet other real estate agents, like we talked about before, to collaborate and grow from each other. We do those every single month.
Okay, yeah. So that's an in-person event that's going
Is
on.
in person. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right.
Next one is July 2nd at 9:30 a.m.
All right. And then you'll send that stuff over to me. We can
Yeah,
get on the platform. And so those that
absolutely.
are listening, we can punch that out there and get people to go. And what
That'd be
kind of food,
great.
what kind of food you got there, man? Anything special we should know about?
It's a really great place. It's called Community Matters Cafe, one of my favorite restaurants in Charlotte. They're partnered with the Charlotte Rescue Mission. They do a lot for the community, and food's great. The food, coffee, it's all good stuff.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well,
Everything on the menu is good.
sounds great. Now, if I wasn't hanging out with my toes in the sand in
Yeah,
Myrtle Beach, I would go to that. But I will probably go to the next one if I'm invited.
awesome.
Be nice.
You're always invited, Greg. I'd love to see you.
Yeah. One cool thing about what I'm getting into with the company with Southern Turf is that they do host, they will bring forward uh, food and drinks and that sort of thing to events. So that's something
Nice.
we could collaborate on. And
Would love to.
do you do any golfing at all? Are you a golfing type of person?
I dabble a little bit.
Yeah. Not
Just
at
a little
like
bit.
not in the living room.
No. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm going out this weekend with some buddies, but I don't play too often, but I can hang.
All right, super. Now, what about you got any trips going on that you do you get away at all? Maybe head to the
Yeah,
mountains or something or what?
yeah. I was actually just out in Boone. Just what was like 2 weeks ago. That was a good time. Just went out with the family. Went to Greenville, South Carolina a couple weeks ago. Got a cruise here in a couple months. It's in December that I'm looking forward to. I try to get out as much as I can. I like little road trips. Places around Charlotte. A lot of cool little cities within like 3 or 4 hours of here that I like to maybe on like a Saturday or a Sunday go to.
Well, that cruise sounds nice.
Oh, I'm excited about it. Going to the Caribbean. It's gonna be a good time.
See, you're
That'll
all
be
right. Yeah,
yeah. I don't typically take too much time off of work like that.
Mhm.
One day I'll get there. I just gotta build this up first, but that'll be a good time.
All right, super. Well, brother, I appreciate you, man. It was really nice connecting to you again. I know it's been a while, but I do appreciate you and accepting my invitation to come in.
Yeah,
And
my
I
my
will.
pleasure.
And as I said, I even when I was in my in real estate in Michigan, it's Chris will agree. There's a plethora of mortgage loan officers out there as well as their agents. But to those that are listening, and one, build a really strong relationship with one or two or whatever it is. I'm not, but I always had at least one or two that were front and center, because once they know you, right? Like you may get into a deal with Chris, and he may not know your personality per se or your communication style and things like that. And I know some loan officers can be very, very aggressive of getting stuff that they need, right? And some agents may not like it, but I would say that, once you build a relationship, that you should try to stay in and keep it going, because that's when things I think will open up and will bring in more business, because referral business is so important to one another. Even though, like, we have clients that I refer to, right? Our name is on that label when we do that. But once you know who you're dealing with on a regular basis, then you're going to feel comfortable doing it. And you wouldn't have any concerns referring, at least I don't have any concerns bringing anyone over to Chris. So that's my take on that.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate the kind words.
All right, brother. All right, folks. We appreciate you all for being part of our Planet One Radio Network. We do appreciate you all for being back with us. You can go on my YouTube channel. It's Planet One Radio YouTube. We're going to have this up there pretty soon. And this one is also being recorded so we can get it out on Amazon Music and Apple and all those other cool places. So, and that one will have really cool music, because I don't know how to do the music thing and the video stuff, Chris. I haven't figured that one out yet. So. All right, brother. We appreciate you, man. Take care of yourself. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Greg. See you. Bye.
Okay.